your front row.
Yes, we do. All right, good evening. We will call the meeting to order. Would you please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Danny, would you please call roll?
Deputy Mayor Wales.
Here.
Councilmember Baggett.
Here.
Councilmember DeCoursey.
Excused.
Councilmember Holman.
Here.
Councilmember Pelosa.
Here.
Councilmember Trout-Manuel.
Here.
And Councilmember Wagner.
Here.
Thank you. We have, excuse me, several proclamations and some special guests tonight, so we'll get right at it. So first this evening, we have a proclamation for Entrepreneurship Week, and that is with two of our high schools. Auburn High School, I believe we have Janet Tarsi. Is that true? Do we have anyone from Auburn High School here this evening? All right, and how about from Auburn Mountain View High School? Emily Cookston, McKenna Ball, and Simran Sandhu. Excellent. Good evening, ladies.
Hello.
So we actually have two proclamations tonight, but they are identical except for the name of the high school. So I am going to read one proclamation that shares both high school names, and hopefully someone from Auburn High School will come in. But this is for Entrepreneurship Week, as I mentioned, and it says, whereas the Auburn High School and Auburn Mountain View High School DECA chapters are affiliates of the National Marketing Education Program, a national student organization dedicated to the training, education, and improvement of young people. And whereas the Auburn High School and Auburn Mountain View High School DECA Club's desire is to participate in an important civic project that will provide club members with opportunities to demonstrate leadership skills, personal and group responsibility, and civic consciousness, as well as contribute to the improvement of their community. And whereas small businesses employ 48% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, and whereas small businesses currently employ more than half of the country's workforce and account for 46% of the private sector's economic output, whereas in Auburn there are approximately 1,500 small entrepreneurial businesses in which each business has an average of 7 to 10 workers overall, employing approximately 10,500 people. Now, therefore, I, Nancy Backus, Mayor of the City of Auburn, Washington, do hereby proclaim November 13th through the 19th, 2017 as Entrepreneurship Week and encourage all students and citizens of the City of Auburn to join the Auburn High School and Auburn Mountain View High School DECA chapters in their campaign to inform others about the opportunities of entrepreneurship. And this is the Auburn Mountain View High School proclamation. To present that to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And would any of you like to say a few words?
Sure.
Perfect. That's always the right answer when given the opportunity.
With this proclamation and with our campaign this year, we're really hoping to just spread the word throughout Auburn and the Auburn School District for kids to know of entrepreneurship as a career option and for them to know that starting young is the best time because they still have the safety net of a home and a place to live.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ladies, and why don't you introduce yourselves as well?
Okay. My name's Emily Watling.
I'm Emily Cookston.
And I'm Simran Sandhu.
Great. All right, ladies, if you would please go forward and accept the appreciation of council for the good work that you do. Thank you so much. Just down in front. How many of you in the room were in DECA when you were in school? A couple of us? Okay, very good. All right, next up is Small Business Saturday, which fits right in with Entrepreneurship Week. So if we could have from the chamber, I know Julia is here, Scott, Kathy, anybody else?
No, we just brought a powerful three.
Terrific. The terrific trio. All right, well, I'm not sure how many of you are aware or familiar with Small Business Saturday, but it's a really important opportunity for us to buy local and to ensure the integrity and the strength of our small businesses. Because as you heard me mention in the proclamation for Entrepreneurship Week, it's very important, but I have a few more words in this one that will bring it even more home, the fact that it's important for us to support local. So, Mayor's proclamation. Whereas we celebrate our local businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 28.8 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of all businesses with employees, are responsible for 63% net new jobs created over the past 20 years. And whereas small businesses employ 48% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, and whereas, on average, 33% of consumers' holiday shopping will be done at small, independently owned retailers and restaurants, yay, and whereas 91% of consumers in the United States agree that small businesses are critical to the overall economic health of the United States, and whereas 76% of consumers in the United States agree that it is important for people to support the small businesses that they value in their community. We need to work on that other 24%. And whereas the City of Auburn supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our neighborhoods. And whereas advocacy groups as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Nancy Backus, Mayor of the City of Auburn, Washington, do hereby proclaim November 25th, 2017 as Small Business Saturday and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Dated the 6th day of November 2017. Julia, I'd like to present you with the proclamation. Thank you
very much.
And would you like to say a few words?
I'm going to have Scott Shoemaker go ahead.
Please. Thank you.
On behalf of the Auburn Area Chamber of Commerce, whose mission it is to support and promote business in the Auburn area, we appreciate the Chamber and the Mayor for having us here tonight to promote Small Business Saturday. Julia's going to hand out these Shop Small bags, and the Chamber in the next couple of weeks is going to be handing out to our small businesses in Auburn Shop Small to promote a Small Business Saturday on the 25th. So thank you for having us here.
Why, thank you.
And there's buttons too.
There are buttons too.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want me to do that?
Yeah, let's do this. Here, I'll take buttons. You got it.
So let me just ask, how many of you are small business owners in the audience tonight? Thank you very much. And make sure to look around and make sure you support those small businesses. Thank you. All right. Excuse me. We also have a proclamation for GIS Day, and I believe our Assistant Director of IT, Ashley Riggs, is going to join me this evening. Good evening, Ashley. All right. Here we go. Mayor's Proclamation. Whereas GIS Day is a day devoted to users of geographic information systems and dedicated to demonstrating real-world applications that are making differences in our community. And whereas the first formal GIS Day took place in 1999, and Ralph Nader helped inspire the creation of GIS Day. He considered GIS Day a good initiative for people to learn about geography and the uses of GIS. And whereas the City of Auburn has implemented a highly successful enterprise-wide geographic information system, GIS, in support of its goals, policies, and programs. Whereas the city's GIS has provided significant benefits to staff, the community, and our partner agencies. And whereas the city utilizes GIS technology for many priority projects, including Cartograph, CRW, Spillman, and supports the city's capital improvement projects, crime mapping, and interactive GIS websites. And now, therefore, I, Nancy Backus, Mayor of Auburn, do hereby proclaim November 15th, 2017 as GIS Day in the City of Auburn and invite the community to learn more about the benefits of GIS in their daily lives and to participate in the city-hosted event. Dated the 6th day of November, 2017. Ashley, if you would please accept the proclamation.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you have a few words you'd like to say.
Just a couple.
Just a few.
Thanks everyone for coming for GIS Day. Like the mayor said, this is the 18th annual, National GIS Day. This is Auburn's 5th year celebrating that. So pretty big accomplishment for us. GIS has come a long way in the last 10 years or so. But now it's turned into something that I'm extremely proud of, and I hope that everyone can come and celebrate with us on next Wednesday, the 15th. It'll be at the Rec Center. Like you said, we've got other cities coming. We've got hopefully police and fire coming, and we've got lots of support to show the real benefit that it provides the city. So again, thank you. And again, thank you to everyone's investment in this program, because it really is doing some powerful things for the city, and I'm very proud of that. So thank you.
Thank you. And Ashley, if you would please go forward and accept the appreciation of our council for the great work that is done in our IT department. All right, and next this evening, we are honored to have several guests here with us this evening from Tamba, Japan, the sister city Auburn shares with Kent. The group includes members of the Tamba International Association, who help coordinate the annual Youth Ambassador Exchange Program, as well as businessmen and economic development staff from Tamba City, businessmen and women from Tamba City. I'd like to invite our guests to come up and please join us in welcoming them, and as well as Glenn Tamai, so he can help introduce them. Oh, Glenn, come over here so it can all be, everybody over here at, so the microphone. So
みんな来てください。
First, as you know, that we operate jointly with the City of Kent for youth ambassador programs, as well as 1 year long high school exchange. And we've been doing this more than 50 years now. And now let me introduce guests from Tamba, city of Tamba. Our counterpart to CAT, or Kent Auburn Tamba sister city program, the counterpart, Tamba International Association, President, Mr. Yamaguchi.
喋っていいですか？
何も言わなくて。
言わなくて、なんか一言言わないと言うとダメ。
Certainly.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, thank you for your invitation. This this guy, and
So it'll pick it up.
okay. Yeah. I got a nice experience to attend these kind of meetings. Yeah, it's nice memories of it, and I bring back to Tamba, and Auburn and Tamba has a long histories. The next summertime, mayor of Tamba City get to here to sign the sister city agreement, and in the future we'll get. I hope we'll get a strong relationship with you and us, and I hope to continue forever. Thank you.
Next, Vice Chair, Mr. Kamei.
Thank you.
Next will be Mr. Yamoto. Yamoto is a city employee of Tamba. He is a manager. We have another Mr. Yamaguchi, but no relations. Mr. Yamaguchi is a small businessman. He owns and operates a travel agency company in Tamba. Mr. Yamaguchi. Next young lady I'd like to introduce is city employee. She's also a manager from Tamba City, and her name is Mrs. Kondo. Also, a city employee assistant to Mrs. Kondo is Miss Adachi. Next, Mr. Shuzo Nishiyama. He's number 6 or 6th generation sake maker. And the sake maker in business for 170 years. Next, Mr. Hanada, a young man, is a manager for about a 70-75 seat restaurant, and that restaurant is started seed money from city of Tamba, and he's managing very well. Mr. Hanada. Earlier Vice Chairman, Mr. Kamei, his wife, Mrs. Kamei. Next two young ladies, they are mothers of our main programs. One is a 10-day homestay program. It's called Youth Ambassador Program. Her daughter was here a year ago. I believe it's a year ago. And she has many wonderful friends in city of Auburn. Mrs. Asai. Next, Mrs. Hata. Her daughter came here 3 years ago. It went to Kent Meridian for 1 year. So it's always exchange program. So Kent Meridian student went to Japan for 1 year, Tamba. Mrs. Hata. some of you may know that there are states of Washington and Hyogo Prefecture, equivalent of a state, our sister state, sister prefecture, and Hyogo Prefecture has an office in Seattle. And I'd like to introduce manager of Seattle office, Mr. Kawachi. So she's going to read
Yes.
that. Next one is that Mayor of Tamba, Mr. Shinichiro Taniguchi, sent a letter or message to Mayor Bacchus. We'd like to introduce that letter and by Mrs. Kondo.
My name is Noriko Kondo of the Tamba City Municipality. This is message from Mr. Shinichi Taniguchi, our city mayor. I'm happy to hand it over to you on behalf of him. Dear Mayor Nancy Bacchus, greetings to Nancy, city officials, and the citizens of Auburn City on behalf of the citizens of Tamba, Japan. This is Shinichi Taniguchi, the mayor of Tamba City. Thank you for welcoming my team today. It is our pleasure to be visiting you and being a new dialogue for our economic advancement. We look forward to learning from your work. With the city Auburn, we have cherished our friendship since 1968. I am particularly proud of our exchange program that has had much impact on nurturing and inspiring many young minds to be global citizens. Let us work together for such a partnership to last a long time and to continue helping the growth of our cities. I look forward to visiting you myself in person upon the planned signing of the Sister City Agreement next August. Lastly, but not least, I would like to express my sincere appreciation for all who made this long history of friendship possible. November 6, 2017, Mayor of Tamba, Shinichi Taniguchi. お願いします。Thank you.
And now I'm going to try just a small piece of Japanese. Glenn, if it doesn't work, please translate for me. But Tamba no yujin da isase kudasate koi desu. Yes? Meaning that we are looking forward to continuing and strengthening this beautiful relationship. And if you would please go forward and accept the appreciation of our council for your visit.
Thank you very much. It's an honor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Where's the sake sample? Thank you. Thank you so much.
How many years?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No, your family.
Thank you.
You don't look anywhere near that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you again.
Our friends from Tomba have had a very full weekend. They came in on Friday, I believe, and there was a reception hosted by the Auburn Noon Lions that evening, and they have toured, they toured some of our wineries. They toured Longhorn Barbecue because the gentleman who was the restaurateur is looking to open a barbecue restaurant over in Tomba. And so they learned from the best when they went over to Longhorn and learned about how to operate a barbecue kitchen. So we are very honored. And we have some of our some of our sister cities, Kent, Auburn, Tomba International. I'm not saying the right name, I know, but we have Duana here and we have Kim here, and we did have a few others, but thank you so much for the work that you do in order to make the distance between our two countries and our two cities seem very, very insignificant and very close together. Thank you so much. All right, we will move on in the agenda. We don't have any appointments this evening, but I believe we do have some agenda modifications, Danny?
Yes, Your Honor. Resolution numbers 5328 and 5329 are added to the agenda.
Thank you very much. All right. We will move to public hearings. We have a public hearing on ordinance number 6658 and intent to modify the Business Improvement Area, or BIA, special assessment. City Council to conduct a public hearing on the proposed modification to the exemptions to the BIA special assessment to address itinerant businesses, home occupations, large-scale nonprofit organizations, and nested businesses. And Doug, are you giving a presentation this evening? Before you sit down, sir, did you want to give a presentation this evening?
30 seconds.
That's
Oh,
never
come
30
on.
seconds with you, Doug.
I
Come
knew
on.
I knew that's what you were going to do. Doug Lane, City of Auburn, Administrative Department, Economic Development Division. This is a modification to approximately a 30-year-old ordinance that was put back in place quite a while ago. And with our current Business Improvement Area board, they've spent the last 5-6 months now going through this ordinance to correct some things that had become outdated after 3 decades. Basically what it does is makes a couple of modifications to who was exempt from a fee that they felt now shouldn't be. And so the only real people that were impacted at all is large multifamily developers, i.e. the types of new products that are being built down here, large nonprofits, and then it also clarified exemptions for small nonprofits with 5 employees or less are exempt. Occupants within our Smart Startup Incubator are exempt. City government, of course, is exempt. And then the only other class of business would be a non-owner occupant landlord of commercial space. They would be now a part of the fee process, which I think is like $150 a year. And then home-based businesses are exempt within that boundary. So that really the real changes and modifications just brought up the playing field for who pays and who doesn't and why. There was some real gray area in those exemptions. Other than that, the existing rules of that 30-year-old ordinance stays in place. And if the ordinance should not pass, then the existing rules from 30 years ago will stay in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Doug before we open the public hearing? All right. We will consider the public hearing for the BIA open. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this topic? Please come forward, give your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Terry Dans. My home address is 36707 212th Way, Southeast in Auburn. I'm actually here to represent my business, which is at 102 West Main, right over at the Truett Building across the street. I'm the president of Crest Container Lines. We're a new company that just opened up in August, over across the street, as I said. We did that because I live here, because my son goes to high school here. Go Trojans. My partners are from India, so they were happy to support my hometown. When I applied for my license, I was told there was going to be an extra prorated fee for this BIA. Didn't get a lot of information on what that was. I was handed a brochure on the Auburn Downtown Association, and it became fairly clear that was for retailers, restaurants, and so on in the downtown core that are the walkable business-to-consumer type entities. That's not at all what we do. Our company is worldwide. We serve customers worldwide. Really none of them here in Auburn right this moment, probably not going to be. So it doesn't do me any good. And frankly, we're very happy to support Auburn because this is my hometown, but we'd rather do it with charitable causes. We sponsored a table at the See You Later Foundation dinner last month, for example. So this fee is just not serving my company. And it's not serving a lot of the businesses that I've spoken to here in Auburn that are paying the fee. It's a very small proportion of folks that are getting an advantage out of decorating the window, a storefront window type contest. And the fact is we have an organization that serves all types of businesses. Business to consumers like those restaurants and those stores, business to business enterprises like my own, and that's the Auburn Area Chamber of Commerce. They do that job, they do it well, and they serve all of our businesses in the best way. So I really feel strongly that the money that local businesses spend, they should have the discretion of where they get the most bang for the buck in supporting things like the Chamber of Commerce, where they're served as well as the other types of entities here. So I'm here to ask the City Council to consider just eliminating the BIA. The Auburn Downtown Association can function on its own and fund itself, perhaps go into a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. I don't know. I'm not asking that to be removed, but the BIA fee just is only serving a small fraction of the companies that pay for that. And we need to let local businesses put their money where it does them the most good, where they're going to grow, because frankly, when local businesses grow, the whole city benefits. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Please give your name and address for the record.
My name is Renee Clark. My home address is 3420 Scenic Drive Southeast in Auburn. I am the owner of Create Courageously, a mixed media art class. I teach mixed media art classes. I currently have a studio in Kent. In August of this year, I became a member of the Small Business Incubator with hopes to someday have a storefront here in the city of Auburn. As a small business owner in the city of Kent, the cost of doing business has been reasonable. Lease rates have been low. There is no BIA ratepayer fee. The city of Kent does have B&O taxes, but they only apply when a business has gross receipts of $62,000 per quarter or $250,000 annually. By the time a business in the city of Kent is paying B&O taxes, that business is well established and generating a decent income. The B&O taxes also on the lease space is significantly lower than BIA rates. The city of Auburn, from my viewpoint, has made becoming a startup business a difficult process, along with licensing and permitting issues. If a business leases space in the BIA area, that startup must also pay the BIA rate, which is $150 to $1,500, depending on the square footage of the business. Technically, the city considers the BIA not a tax, but I know many small business owners consider the BIA a tax on small business. As a small business owner, I can attest it takes quite a while before you begin to earn an income. In the beginning stages, startup businesses will invest all or more than all of their income. In other words, like in my case, I'm investing my husband's income into my small business in hopes that I can build this business up. So I am relying on a secondary income, and I know I'm not the only small business that relies on secondary income to start their business up. We all know that many businesses fail within that first 5 years, and I believe that a startup business that has to pay a BIA ratepayer fee has a little extra push towards financial failure. In the few months since I've had my business permit in the city of Auburn, the only recent activity that I could find that has been sponsored by the BIA was a downtown business decorating contest. The contest was presented in partnership with the ADA, the city of Auburn, and the Auburn Area Chamber of Commerce. I have not been able to understand how this contest, which profits one business, improves the livelihood of all the businesses in the city of Auburn. I don't know who won that contest. It hasn't been announced on social media or anything, but it had a prize value of $2,000. And I would guess that whoever won that contest probably has quite a few tenants and quite a few customers already prior to participating in that contest. It's kind of an unfair situation for startup businesses, you know, that are trying to get their customers. As a City of Auburn Business Incubator member, I don't yet pay any fees. But if I were to get a storefront, I do know that I would be paying fees. I asked the council to help small businesses and startup businesses in the city of Auburn grow and succeed by eliminating both the BIA and the ADA, the fees that are associated with those. We have the Chamber of Commerce, which is available to all businesses within the city, not just the local BIA businesses, and it should be enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
I would.
Please give your name and address for the record.
I'm Julia Jordan. I'm the CEO and president of the Auburn Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm also a resident of Auburn, 6004 Olive Avenue Southeast. I just would like to clarify some misconceptions about the different organizations. As you know, the Auburn Area Chamber of Commerce, we're more of a business advocacy group, and so we do cover a region rather than a specific area. The ADA used to be the financial arm for the BIA and has since become an event organization. So they are looking at creating events that are going to bring people to the downtown core to create that buzz and that community connection. The BIA is, it's been in effect for a long time, although they've decided to be their own entity. They've decided to use that money for marketing the downtown and then also using it for safety and for security and for some of the cleanliness. And as a former downtown director at one time in California, I find it very valuable if you use the BIA and the Chamber and any other organization that's economic development friendly, it'll help your business out tremendously. And I'm not just saying that as the CEO. I've owned my own business before, and I see what a value all of those things will bring to the downtown. Ultimately, what happens with a BIA, a successful BIA, is that they will start to build the economic development in the downtown core, create that vitality. The infrastructure is there, and it's beautiful. It's just getting the right mix, and Doug Lean works really, really hard, but having the BIA in partnership with that, I think, is going to be an asset. We also are in the downtown core. We're at 420 East Main Street. We don't have a retail storefront, but I'm glad to pay that BIA fee to keep the safety and the cleanliness of the streets and to be able to create a vibrant downtown that's going to be able to be used by locals and people who are coming to visit. That's all I had to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on the topic of the BIA? It's a business improvement area. And just make a note that the funding that is collected from those businesses in the BIA area are not city funds. Those funds are collected on behalf of the BIA by the city when the business license is paid for. And so that assessment is done at that time. The city collects the fees, but those are not dollars that the city can utilize. It is simply a collection point, if you will, and the BIA Ratepayers Board, which has been reestablished and reinvigorated over the last several months, then determines where those funds are utilized. And so I will say that I think that the current BIA Ratepayers Board has done a significant amount of work, have listened to business owners in the downtown, and I believe, from everything that I have heard, have been very responsive and receptive to those comments in trying to reshape what the BIA looks like and what the BIA accomplishes. So, any final words from anyone? All right, we will close the hearing on the BIA, and we will move to audience participation. This is the place on the agenda where the public is invited to speak to the City Council on any issue. Those wishing to speak are reminded to sign in on the form provided. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Excuse me. Yes, please come forward, give your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
My name is Paula Gobienko, 1815 22nd Way, Northeast Auburn. I'm here to talk about the dangerous dog laws of Auburn. I just recently changed what I was going to say an hour before I came here because I was served, I got some paperwork from the city of Auburn. I'm going to be testifying on their behalf. But my grandson's dog was viciously killed by a pit bull, and I hope you guys never have to witness the actions of a pit bull. It's horrifying, to say the least. This pit bull, if the laws were tighter in Auburn and different and possibly banned altogether as they are in Enumclaw, this pit bull killed or crushed another dog's skull in December of 2015. And if something was done properly, my grandson's dog would be alive today. It was his therapy dog. It was an extension of him. This is just a horrifying experience. So I'm going to cut it short. I'm asking you guys to read everything that I'm going to hand you guys at your leisure. And I just hope that you would consider changing the laws, tightening them up, and possibly banning pit bulls altogether. They're unpredictable dogs. There's, I got statistics in here, and there's things that you can go on to research even further, but when a pit bull bites, it causes amputation, plastic surgery, and death. They don't let go. They know the vital organs, and there's a lot of pit bulls running around Auburn without leashes, and if that dog, something was done about it in 2015, and he had a proper leash and a harness and a muzzle, also Yoda would be alive today. So I'm just asking you please to read everything that I'm going to hand you and consider changing the laws or tightening them up for the safety of the public.
Thank you.
Shall I just hand it?
Do you have enough copies for everyone, plus a copy for our city clerk?
Copies.
14, okay. Why don't you give them to Danny, and we'll make sure that council members receive a copy of them this evening before they leave. Thank you very much. I hope your grandson is doing okay. Yes, please come forward, give your name and address for the record.
Hi. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. Alex Rincars, 2516 I Street, PhD, faculty of University of Washington Medical School. And I've seen both the highs and lows of life, and one thing I want to say is I applaud the entrepreneurship that you're promoting, and you don't need 10 years of college and 2 or 3 year internships to start doing that. It's time to start young, not after. And there's anybody looking for a nice slide presentation, I have some professional slides that I didn't make that I would love to share. My concern tonight is homeless, and I've seen the top of the world and I've seen the bottom of the world. And what I've seen lately in the last few months is the demise of kind of the management of Valley City's Landing, which is a homeless organization or a program. It's supposed to be a supportive living. And right now it's an oppressive living area due to the new management. And I would really hope that, since I know Auburn is concerned about the homeless, and being a world-respected scientist that ended up there due to health and poor decisions, sorry, no drugs or alcohol, but a lot of people do have drug and alcohol problems. We know of a lady that is literally going to probably freeze to death. She's a traumatic brain injury and very difficult to work with, has some mental issues, but Valley Cities is a mental health organization. And I really think we're watching her. I'm surprised she hasn't been robbed or anything now, and she's just difficult to work with. She's kind of negative at times, but does she deserve to die in her car because of that? Doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, goes to church, prays. So I just want to bring, hopefully, your attention to the change and just show my gratitude for what was there to help me. I'm ready to step back into my field as adjunct faculty at University of Washington School of Medicine and Laboratory Medicine. And it can happen to the top. You know, you don't have to be a drug addict or anything to make bad decisions and be in the stock market at 2008. So I just thank you. I think it's great to be in Auburn, a city that is very well managed compared to some of your sister cities right around you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and best of luck as you return to the University of Washington. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Please come forward, give your name and address for the record. And limit comments to 3 minutes, please.
Hi, my name is Betty, and I'm at 2516 Ice Creek, and I'm with Alex at the same Valley City's Landing. And my main concern is the disability out there with people out there homeless. I've been out, I was in that same situation where I was homeless for 4 years, and I had 2 legs need placement, and I walk the streets many times, and I go do a head count out there of people out on the street. And then most of my time that I'm not working, I go out and help those people out there for need. Because, you know, I was out there once before. And today, for my agenda for today, we love other people out there that's really reaching out and wants to make a change. We got people with disability that don't understand, and they're not ready to surrender their life. So with my challenge, every day when I do my daily walk, I go out there and do a head count. And with me giving back to the city, I appreciate Auburn, Washington for, you know, allowing me to live in this city. But my concern is about our handicapped people out there homeless. So with that, if you consider into mind, put that to rest to help those people out there who suffer. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Final time, anyone else like to please come forward, give your name and address for the record, and comments to 3 minutes, please.
Hi, my name is Steve Small. I live at 201 O Street Northeast in Auburn, some of the time, most of the time, or when I can get home. But the BIA is a good program. We've been paying it for 30 years and 5 or 6 properties, and it looks to me like we're just going to expand it into more uses, which we have in town here too. So I hope the money is well used or merged with somebody that can use it to help everybody in the community. I keep reading the newspapers, and the reason I'm here, I got all these cards. Come see everybody tonight. But the newspapers, I'm seeing a parking garage across the street right here. Okay. Well, if you look at it logically, if you put 500 or 600 cars across the street here, and they got to leave town. I just came from Seattle from the Huskies game and the Seahawks game, and I brought people off down to Tacoma last night at the Tacoma Dome for a concert. It's a nightmare. Here we're stuck with Main Street, Highway 18. You got the railroad tracks here, railroad tracks there. You plug 600 cars across the street here, where are they going to go? Can't cross a 3rd, can't cross a Main. They got to go to Highway 18, or they got to go through town. And I don't know how many are going to sit in their park garage and shop downtown. Most people don't. They get in their car after trade and they leave, and they're all in a hurry. They're in a hurry. So, I mean, if you look at putting 600 cars across the street, how are they going to get out of here? They can't. They're going to try to cross the people in the trains right here. We do it all day long. You go to 3rd, the arms are down probably from 3 o'clock till 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. You can't get past. You can't get out of town. You got to use A Street here, and that's the best street they've ever built in town, A Street right here. At least you can skirt along the tracks to get out of here. The ramp over off of 4th and Cross right there, that's a good ramp. You got 3 choices. You can go west on 18, east on 18, north and south on C, and you're not plugging anybody up. You got a garage sitting down there right now. Has anybody done a study on how many cars sit there and shop downtown? How many people stay in town? I don't know. But at least they can get out of the garage and get out of town. You know, A Street South. I mean, all the streets are plugged. But I don't see how you can dump 600 cars across the street from City Hall and the hospital and get them out of here. So, anyway, and tomorrow's election day, remember.
Is there anyone else that wants to try and top that this evening? Any final comments? All right, we will move on. Thank you all for coming tonight and for sharing your comments and ideas with us. Do we have any correspondence this evening, Danny? All right, we will move on to Council Ad Hoc Committee reports. Council Ad Hoc Committee chairs may report on the status of their ad hoc council committee's progress on assigned tasks and may give their recommendations for the City Council, if any. And currently, the one ad hoc committee that we have is Finance, and that is Councilmember Baggett.
Thank you, Your Honor. This week, as members of the Council Ad Hoc Finance Committee, Councilmember Wagner and I reviewed the payroll vouchers and electronic deposits for approximately $2.2 million, and claims vouchers and wire transfers for approximately $2.6 million for the periods October 12th to November 1st and November 6th, 2017, respectively. All questions asked by the committee of the Finance Directorate were answered to the committee's satisfaction, and the committee recommends council approval of these expenses.
Thank you. Excuse me. All right, we will move on to the consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered by the City Council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Do I have a motion? Deputy Mayor Wells.
Thank you. I move for the approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Holman.
I second.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Wells.
On the consent agenda this evening, we have the minutes of the June 27th, 2016 and July 11th, 2016 study session meetings, the minutes of the October 16, 2017 City Council meeting. We also have claims, vouchers, and payroll vouchers that Councilmember Baggett spoke to and recommended that we approve. We have a call for a public hearing regarding the 2018 tax levy recommendations. We also have a call for a public hearing to review on 2 dates, the 20th November and December 4th, on our biannual budget modifications. We have a public works project on the Main Street signal upgrade. We have a public works project, CP 1417 on the West Hill Springs Improvement Project. And finally, we have the final payment for the project over there on M Street by 3rd, which I need to commend everyone on getting done on time so that it didn't negatively impact schools and buses. Thank you, Ingrid.
Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passes. All right, we have no unfinished business. We have no new business. We will move on to ordinances. Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ordinance number 6658, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Auburn, Washington, creating a new chapter of the Auburn City Code relating to Auburn Business Improvement Area.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Wagner.
I move for the introduction and adoption of ordinance 6658.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Baggett.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember Wagner.
Well, I think the BIA does a lot of good work and is a useful tool for the businesses. However, I did find it interesting to hear the testimony of the lady who brought attention to startup businesses. And I really wonder why the BIA Committee of Ratepayers didn't address that in these changes. We're doing a lot of changes, and as Economic Development Manager Lean pointed out, we're trying to update this 30-year-old agreement. It seems to me that even though I made a motion to get this on the table, I may be making a motion to refer it back to the BIA Committee of Ratepayers to consider the comments that she made about startup businesses, because cash flow is a lot different for those folks than it is for established businesses, and yet they don't seem to be recognized in the rate paying. So that's where I'm at this point.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Wills.
I kind of agree with you, Rich. Not only did Renee Clark speak to the concept of it being a startup, but she also spoke to the notion of if they were not a startup, that their type of business would not benefit, from decorations and some of those others. They're more of a standalone international. So I would support an amendment or something where we look at this aspect of it, again, since we're doing these major changes.
Councilmember Wagner.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that I also found that interesting, the concept of an international company that's not retail, it's not wholesale. Yeah. It's, in fact, look at our brother-in-law who has that kind of business out of the airport, and it's a good business, but he doesn't get anything out of local advertising. He's not paying, of course, because he's not in the BIA area, but there may be people like him in the BIA area that have a thriving business, but they don't see any advantage. I'm a little surprised that the BIA Committee of Ratepayers decided to even out the calculation from a nickel to 15 cents, because that was a big controversy a few years ago when it did get switched. I think it started out being the same, and now they're saying let's go back to the same again, and I'm not going to second guess them on that one, but I do want to second guess them on the ideas of these businesses that are global that don't necessarily fit into service or retail or any other category that we've mentioned. And I didn't look back at AC, Auburn City Code 1860, that supposedly lists all the kinds of businesses that we could have downtown, but my guess is it probably doesn't include everyone that could happen, like my son-in-law's business. I'll bet that kind isn't recognized. Well, I did make a motion for this to put it on the agenda for discussion. I'd like to know from our parliamentarian what I should do to have this referred back to the BIA Committee of Ratepayers to consider startup businesses and global businesses that have little or no local income.
The matter could be tabled until that was done. The motion could be, and I'm not trying to say that there's only one option, but a motion could be made to table this matter until it has been reviewed by the committee or the board, and then referred back to the City Council after having considered those changes that would affect startup businesses and businesses that may not benefit from this. But it would take a motion, and a separate motion, and a second to table it with that condition.
But we don't have to vote on the one that's on the floor now?
No, it'd be tabling it. You'd be tabling that motion. The motion would still be made.
Okay.
Councilmember, let's get everybody that wants to make a comment.
Yes, I would ask for clarification from Economic Development Manager Doug Lean as to exactly what changes this ordinance as it's currently written will be made?
Thank you very much. Excuse me. For a little history, there's 190 businesses within the boundary of the current BIA. As I said earlier, it was put in place 30 years ago. If you look at the intent of the BIA, it really doesn't make any difference what kind of a business it is. It is designed to create an environment. So if it's an international business, for example, that is doing business here but has no customers here, it's more for the businesses itself, the employees, to be able to walk into a safe, clean, lit, fun area to be in to do business. It isn't so much about the company itself in that particular case, if it's a service industry. If it's retail, yes, that's a different animal. Now the ADA, which has been around for quite a while, about 25 years, that was started. That is a standalone 501c3 corporation, not controlled by the BIA at all. But it can be the recipient, and it says in the ordinance that the BIA board has the right to contract with a nonprofit to help in its mission. The ADA is in a position, and has been for a number of years, to be the managing production side of the BIA. They recently, when the BIA board decided to become active again last January, and we went through an extensive survey and meetings and open workshops with those 190 businesses. And they voted at that time as a group of businesses to reactivate the BIA board. We have 9 members on that of 9 businesses from downtown that represent those 190 businesses. Our chairman is sitting in the room right now of the BIA board. They have worked their heart out. Now, their intention on this, they know it's a multi-step process. The inequities that were in the ordinance for the fees was the first thing that had to be dealt with to level the playing ground. You had 185 businesses paying fees with 5 or 6 that were not, which all of them want to pay. They were the bigger companies. The hospital, for example, was exempt. They want to pay in the fee because they want a safe, nice, clean, lit neighborhood for their employees to come and go from. Have things to do on their lunch hour or after work. They have a number of employees now living across the street from the hospital. They want a nice, clean neighborhood environment to be in. So that's their intention of wanting to support the BIA activity. Now, the ADA is in the process right now. It has a budget request in to the BIA to have part of those funds, maybe around 30% of their fees that they collect, to be given to, contracted with the ADA to put on art events, festivals. They've already scheduled 2 new ones now, one in February and March, for retail-orientated activities to draw boots to the sidewalk. So what they're trying to do is get themselves truthfully down on paper with a business plan, with a legitimate, equalized budget that everybody's paying their fair share. I understand $50 means a lot to a small startup. I deal with startup businesses every single day. That was why we opened up the small business incubator over the train station. So if it was a small business that wasn't on their feet yet and they needed to figure out their business plan to become profitable, they're exempt from this as long as they're in the incubator. And if you're not, and you're in a small space, the minimum fee is $150 a year. And that, I understand, $150 could be a week's worth of profit to a small business. We get that. But if the BIA and the ADA do their job for downtown to reactivate Main Street, which Main Street USA across the United States says there's thousands of them. And so we have found that if you work this in the right order and bring in the purses and wallets for the retail customers and draw them in through the ADA activity, the BIA is really reserving most of their funds to deal with lighting. Right now, they have a business agenda, I believe, that has parking, security, lighting, marketing. They have a half a dozen items now that they have on their work agenda for new agenda items once they dealt with the main ordinance, cleaned it up, because they're going into the renewal process now starting in about a week with business license renewals. So if it doesn't get fixed now, then it's going to be over a year from now before it does get fixed for them. Even if the law changes, it doesn't make any difference once the renewal process is over with for 2018. So they were focused on getting that equity situation to the fees corrected first. Now they're into a lot of the other areas that we've talked about right now. So I guess that's as best as I can explain it where they are in a work process, unless our committee chair for the BIA would like to say a word if you care to hear from her.
Megan, did you want to speak?
My name is Megan White. We own a business at 225 Auburn Way North. I was like you when I first joined the board. I was frustrated. I didn't see any benefit to the BIA. At the time, I thought it was also the ADA that was in control of this money, and we weren't seeing any benefit from it. But by getting involved, I've kind of learned how it all came about, some of the history, and really what we can do as a group to improve and make some changes going forward. So, sorry, I'm nervous. It's a long process to make the changes. There's a lot of changes that we want to make in the ordinance, but we really have to kind of baby step, because if we did the whole ordinance and something was suspicious or something didn't make sense to the council, we would have to go back to square one and start over again. So the first baby step is having everybody who should be paying the BIA fees in the ordinance to be paying the fees. And then from there we can expand on some of the other parts of the ordinance. But for now, we would like to see more equity happening with all the businesses that should be paying. For example, the Tully's Coffee inside the hospital, they should be paying the BIA fee as well. And with the old ordinance, or the current ordinance, they were exempt. So we'd like to have it be as fair as possible, to have all of the businesses taking part and paying fees, and so we can actually use the money better. Also, another thing is, as the ADA, we went from an executive director who we had hired many, many years ago. She was, basically her salary was, that was all of the BIA fees that we were taking in, was paying her salary. So now we are a fully volunteer Auburn Downtown Association. There's no executive director, so there is a lot more funds that can be used to benefit the businesses downtown. Thank you.
Thank you.
I need to put you on the spot.
It's okay. Any other questions for Doug? Councilmember Trout Manuel?
So Doug, if somebody decides
your microphone, please.
So if somebody decides to opt not to join, will that make it hard for them to get their license and everything like that?
According to this ordinance, 6658, it says it in that, but it also is in the original documents from 30 years ago. It is a required fee to obtain a business license. So if a small business wants, or if a big or small business would like to pull a business license or continue with their business license, they have to pay it, or the business license will be withheld.
Councilmember Wagner.
Doug, the comment that if we don't do it tonight, it may get put off clear till next year. Say more about why that is.
Well, right now, probably within 2 weeks, you will see the notices, businesses will see the notices come out for the renewal of their 2018 business license.
Okay.
That's only collected once a year, at that time, they're due as of January 1. So by the time, if this ordinance were approved, or let's say it was tabled, sent back to the BI committee for reconsideration for that issue of a startup business, that type of thing, wouldn't be back to you. Well, I guess it could be back to you by December, but it'd be very difficult to enforce it by January 1, is the only thing I was saying. Now, that's totally your call, obviously. If this were not to get passed until, say, January or something like that, then it would not go into effect until January 1 of 19. So that's what I meant by that.
Deputy Mayor Wells.
I have a couple of questions. On the BIA, it was at one time said that it was marketing, and now it's talking about security, lighting, and parking. Isn't that the city's responsibility? I mean, I'm trying to figure out why we need the BIA.
25 years ago, the BIA used to do what they called a merchant patrol. They had added private security that was out on the street. There's been a number of different things. At one time, the ADA ran downtown parking permits. There's been a lot of evolution to what they've done over the years. The city, I believe, and I'm not a public works specialist by any means, but yes, there are certain base requirements for us as a city for public lighting under whatever guidelines, parking, security, what their police department does. If the downtown association, if the BIA decides that maybe there's an alley area or a sidewalk or something that they think that they would like to have special attention paid to that doesn't fit underneath the requirements of whatever our public works department or police department follow under, then they have the capability under this to spend the funds on that activity if they want. It also says that they have the opportunity to contract with an outside group, nonprofit, i.e. like the ADA, to be their marketing arm and promotions arm. They can do that also. The BIA actually works on, they have the right to work on a number of things. They can get involved in parking. That's within the ordinance. They can get involved in running parking lots, parking garages. There's a number of things they could do as a board. That ordinance gives them the authority to be involved in it. It's up to the 190 businesses that are inside of it. This whole thing exists because of them, their vote. And we have spent extensive survey and time and hours of meetings with them to drill it down to what their priorities are. And that's, as staff, that's what we've been trying to do, is fulfill that movement of their wishes at this point. Those meetings are wide open for anybody within those 190 businesses to participate in. I talk to them on a daily basis, invite them to the meetings, we mail to them. We want them involved. It's their neighborhood.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Wells.
It sounds to me like it's kind of optional type things. I mean, if they have a special area that they want to see additional lighting, or it's kind of optional. That's my thought. My other question is, we collect $50 for a business license so that we have demographics on the businesses. What other reasons do we collect the $50? And maybe we could reduce that to $1 and offset. Right now, and I believe Director Coleman would have to answer this better than I, that the $50 that's collected currently for a business license is a fee that goes into the general fund and is distributed by you in your budget to with whatever. There's no specific key against that revenue for
the business license fee that is charged right now, separate and aside from the BIA, is actually a fee that is calculated to represent the cost that the city incurs. It's not, I mean, the city couldn't provide the services it needs to be able to provide for a dollar amount that was unreflective of that without subsidizing it from some other source. May I throw a thought out that may, I can see the council's toying with some issues, but perhaps the way to approach this so that we don't jeopardize next year's business licensing scheme for a lot of the businesses that would otherwise be affected is perhaps to have the city council consider this change, but subsequent to if this ordinance were adopted subsequently, the matter could still be referred back to the board to reevaluate what might be a change and perhaps even consider that in terms of a return of a partial funding or something like that. And again, looking at trying to make sure that we don't leave the licensing issue in jeopardy, because we're dealing with an ordinance that's the existing ordinance that's being amended by this is 30 some years old. It's a significantly old ordinance that had a lot of things that needed to be changed. And I don't know if that raises some other questions, and I apologize for perhaps making it a little bit more complicated in terms of that suggestion, but that might be something to think about.
Councilmember Holman.
I'd be comfortable voting for this ordinance as it's now written, with the caveat that the BIA look into the rate scheme that Attorney Hyde just said that we could, or they could get that back and discuss it. And if they choose to exempt like certain startups below a certain size, then refund that part of the BIA assessment. But that would be done at a separate, action by the BIA board and council. I don't know, does that make any sense?
Yes, Councilmember Pelosi and then Councilmember Wagner.
I think by passing it tonight, we're just muddying up the surface. I would much rather see it go back to the committee, and they can do that quick, and have them look into the testimony that was heard tonight and incorporate and review it and possibly incorporate that testimony into the BIA agreement. That way we got a clean package when it comes back to us. And I'm not against this ordinance, but I think it'd be cleaner if we return it. We return a lot of things back to committee for reevaluation, et cetera, but then it gets back to us, and Doug, as quick as he is, he can put this on a fast track, and then we'd have it back in a couple weeks, and bing.
I agree.
That's what
Doug, Councilmember Wagner.
I think we should table it to a date certain 2 weeks from now. And if they aren't back with something by then, we pass what we got here.
Mayor, I'll second it.
Oh, that wasn't an actual motion.
That wasn't a motion, I don't
Well, it sounded
believe
pretty
yet.
good to me.
We'll get to a motion eventually. But the other thing I wanted to bring up, Doug, while you're up there, one of the main advantages of having something like the ADA or the BIA or both is that they can talk to us about big projects that are way out of their ability to fund. And an example is one that we passed tonight, the C Street, Main Street, $500,000 signal improvement.
Yep.
They're never going to pay for that kind of thing. And so the big ones we can talk, whether we go and talk to the board or not, we know that those 9 people are looking at the whole downtown and kind of thinking about how the whole thing works, as well as their own business. So even if you didn't go to the board, you could go to individual ones of those boards to get some idea of whether we want to spend that $500,000 or not, or whatever the other thing is we want to do. So anyway, I'd like to see something when we do this that is more clear about the advisory role that the BIA has to city funding for downtown projects.
Doug, did you want to respond to that?
Well, yeah, I guess I want to make sure I'm clear, what you're directing us to go back and do. Well, one statement I just want to make. You hit an interesting point when it talks about funding and what they can do. It's very difficult. In our economic development plan last year that you passed, there's very specific area there of strategies for marketing and regional branding to build a brand out of Auburn that we're a destination to do business. That's how our small businesses will do better when customers can find them to come onto the street, no matter if it's Main Street or if it's North Auburn Way at 49th. It's all about creating the brand. Tourism, for example, has been trying very hard with what they do. Tourism entire marketing by budget they have available to them for 2018 is $38,000 a year. BIA, with the restructuring that they've done and the little bit extra that this added fee to cleaning up the exemptions, which just so you're clear, the companies that are impacted with this exemption change would only mean a difference of about $7,200 a year additional fees collected. And part of that, a $1,500 fee by Merrill Gardens, they paid it last year out of the goodness of their heart to the BIA because they felt that they wanted to help support the neighborhood around them for their residents. So it really, from this year's income to next year's income, is less than $6,000 is what this exemption change is. The point I'm making is the BIA already, as a board, at their last meeting, voted to partner with tourism to buy $7,500 worth of marketing for small business and tourism and retail downtown. It includes the mall area, together jointly, because they don't have enough money on their own to have an impact. The type of media buy budgets that we're being hit with right now to do correct branding is over $250,000 a year. So we're trying to build a relationship between these different areas within the city boards, such as BIA and tourism, to be able to have that cohesive impact on the branding that we've been tasked with to try to do in the strategy plan. So just so make sure if you do send it back, give me correction what you're asking the BIA board to work on. Because a lot of this they've talked about extensively already at their board meetings.
Councilmember Pelosi.
Councilmember Wagner?
Your microphone, please.
Oh, thank you. Are you going to make the motion, or do you want me to make the motion?
I want to keep talking about some of these other things that I don't think we put to bed yet.
Well, we're discussing some.
I just wanted to say.
We're discussing something before a motion is on the table, and that's not according to Robert.
We have a motion on the table, the original motion, so
okay,
all discussion is appropriate. Your microphone, please. Microphone, if you're going to speak.
Yeah, everything I'm talking about would hopefully be addition here. And Doug, you missed my point altogether, I think.
Okay.
You know, you're talking about branding and $50,000 projects. I'm talking about Main Street and signals and underground storm drainage, millions of dollars worth of stuff that they could advocate for in an advisory role if we gave them that charge in their mission. And I think you have something in there about it, they should cooperate with other organizations or something. I'd like to see something more specific about them being advisory to the city on improvements and operational things like bicycle patrols, whatever. But some general term that Dan could come up with that reminds them that they have access to us to give us advice on what they need down there.
And and to answer that, they know that. We've talked extensively at the board meetings about, I guess as the chairman said, they're trying to do this in steps. They hadn't been active for 13 years. The last few months, they've come light years to where they are right now. And they felt that the inequities in the exemptions was the biggest problem they wanted to get fixed first before the end of the year. They have an extensive list of new business and items they've already been bringing forward. You've given them a certain level of authority: parking, marketing, promotion, lighting, security. It's all spelled out in there from 30 plus years ago in that original ordinance that was done. And they've kept the intent. Now, if you want to open up that authority, but they already know, and they've already, I think they're prepared to come in and start asking and making recommendations for other areas, such as parking and some other things. We've already had planning and PD and briefed them as a board on parking issues. They've already set up an ad hoc committee on parking from the BIA board that they're working on that right now. So they are being active and they are wanting to come forward with recommendations to you, but they wanted to they want to do it right. And they are asking for different departments and staff help and bringing them information to come in here with well thought out and researched recommendations and questions. This issue right now they felt was their number one priority because they have people wanting to pay fees, but the code doesn't call for it. So that's really where it boils down to. Things like what you're talking about, startup businesses, they spent probably 2 hours on that subject before they sent to you what they have. So they have beat this pretty hard. I'm sure we're more than willing to take it back and talk about it again.
Okay, Councilmember Pelosi and then Deputy Mayor Wells.
Okay, Doug, on a fast track.
Yes, sir.
If a motion to table this is made, you could get charging on it by the rest of the week. And then on the 13th is a study session by us. And then the following week on the 20th is the council. So we can possibly
keep in mind you're talking about a group of volunteers, and scheduling
Well-
these meetings is not necessarily paramount to their businesses. Adding an ad hoc committee or an additional special meeting is not necessarily.
Well, Mayor,
I'm just
I'm just
saying,
suggesting this thing to, the folks out here want this to happen. And we can make it happen if they want to put all these thoughts together in this ordinance. Then bring it back to us on the 13th. And the 20th, we can approve it.
just saying that that's a week from now, and just please remember that meetings have to be, they have to be publicized. How much time has to be noted, Danny? 24 hours.
No,
And then
that's-
getting the.
That's one day. That's easy.
Well, getting it publicized, yes, is easy, but getting them back together in a short amount of time may not be quite as easy. I'm just saying that that's a very.
We can shoot, Mayor, we can shoot for that. If we miss it, we miss it. At least we can shoot for it.
I'm just trying to remind you to be realistic about what the expectations of
I still have the
volunteers
floor
are.
then, right? Are you going to make the motion?
Not yet. She wants to.
I just want to.
Huh?
Deputy Mayor Wells.
I know the timing is off, but some of the best decisions that we have made over the years I've been on the council is where at the last couple of hours, you know, we have gotten input from really valuable people. We've called in the Planning Commission and other people to look at things, and we've come up with some really solid work. And I hate to rush this. I think that we have the BIA here, and they've heard what we're hearing about. We want to empower them to have make us recommendations. We want to look at small startups, and we also want to look at those types of businesses that are not retail, in that people are walking in and out of the streets or parking. And I think that we refer it back to them and trust what they come up with after they've heard the same things that we have. Mm-hmm. And it's not time, but that's the beauty of this system. The system, we have a public hearing, people come in, tell us what they think. We see if we think it has merit, and then we refer it back to that group that's advising us and see what they do with it.
Could I, this is Dan Heidkin, could I suggest that there is language in the current proposed ordinance that does create the authority of the board to make recommendations to the city council on a relatively diverse collection of things that would include anything that essentially, I'd say it's relatively broadly worded, and it could include anything that's related to economic development, but also if we were to try to move this too fast, we would have to recognize that all of the members, all of the people, the businesses that are located within the BIA area all have to be notified, and that would absolutely create a roadblock to moving so fast that we could guarantee getting this done in time to affect this upcoming licensing procedure. The city council, the ordinance does create this board as an advisory board, and it could come back relatively quickly, albeit next year, with recommendations for things that might fit within the concerns that you're addressing.
Councilmember Trout Manuel.
You know, I think that we are also missing a point here. We have 2 individuals or 3 individuals out there that are in the audience that voice their concern about being part of this. I think we need to also address that to bring it, you know, I think we need to table it, go back and look at this, and address those people's concerns as well.
Councilmember Wagner.
This deadline for getting any money in for the next year through the licensing process, I think we have to think differently about doing the highest quality work on this the first time. The chair of the BI ratepayers said this is a baby step. and they have in mind a lot of other steps. To me, I think we should pass this tonight as a baby step and trust them to go on and do all these other things that need to be done, like startup businesses and other things that we've talked about. The other thing, Dan, would you direct me to that paragraph that says they do recommendations?
090, that chapter, it's 2.98.090. And I'd probably say the language that gives us the strongest tool is probably paragraph C. But there's other language in there too, but I'd think that would be what I think is. Yes, and there's also this is created pursuant to statute, so there are some things that don't even have to be spelled out. But the language that is spelled out and included in our code would give them the authority to participate as an advisory board on a relatively broad collection of things.
Yeah, thank you. That satisfies my interest in having them be a recommending body. But I still, I'm at the point now that I think we should pass this tonight and trust them to come back with the tune-ups.
Trust them, what?
Councilmember Pelosi.
Can you repeat what you said?
I think we should pass this ordinance tonight and trust the BIA ratepayers from the words that the chair said, that this is a baby step and they have a lot more steps they want to make. And they can pick up things like the startup businesses in those succeeding steps. So if we go with their thought process that this is a baby step, I say let's pass it tonight.
But we're still harming a potential business.
How is that?
Well, you heard the testimony.
What business are we harming?
I don't know what business it was.
It would be the.
Well, excuse me, you have not been called on yet. We still have Councilmember Pelosi has the floor.
Well, I'm trying to understand what.
Well, the way it's written now, it doesn't do anything for startup businesses.
No, it doesn't.
And so, you know.
Why wait another 6 months or so?
We don't have to wait 6 months. We can wait until, we could tell them we expect that back in 3 months, or some reasonable time.
Okay, but let's put it in the motion that way.
Okay.
So it's recorded.
Why don't you make that amendment to the motion that's on the floor?
All right.
So, Deputy Mayor Wells.
One of the businesses that spoke this evening talked about them being a startup, and if they had to pay this, that they thought it was fairly significant because it's based on square footage. We've also talked about that if we changed the rules, through the process, halfway through the year, they would get a refund. But still, in the interim, I'm really protective of startup businesses. And I don't know that if some of these startup businesses that I've seen, some of these small restaurants where every family member is working and doing, that they wouldn't have the $1,500 to pay for this. And then it would be, excuse me? Go ahead. That, sure they get a refund, but their cash flow at the start when they're starting a new startup is difficult.
Doug, how many of the businesses are in the $1,500 category?
I believe about 6 out of the 190.
Are any of them,
Deputy Mayor Wells.
Are any of them startups?
No.
Oh, okay.
Because most of the startup businesses, if you say it's a small professional company that goes into 500 or 600, 700 square feet of office, their fee is probably going to be about $150 to $175 a year.
Okay.
And I would say the average storefront on Main Street is probably in the $350, and that's a 1,800 square foot business of some sort. But the average small startup that's not in the incubator, which is exempt, they don't pay anything, and Ms. Clark doesn't pay anything as a member of the incubator. She's exempt until she's ready to be out on the street, would go into a small space of 400, 500, 600 square feet if it's able to be found. So, yeah, and listen, if there was anybody that's been an advocate to make small business profitable quick, I am. And I will tell you that the months and weeks and hours of time that this BIA board has put their heart and soul into this. They have their peers, you know, at best interest. They spent hours on this issue of startup businesses. They spent hours on the fact that a non-owner occupant commercial landlord. So if you own a business on Main or building on Main Street and you rent that out and collect $5,000 a month rent, those people, that business does not pay a BIA fee. Under the new ordinance, they will. This was all about just basically correcting some 30-year-old outdated rules. To say that they couldn't be back, we'll put it, whatever recommendations you have, if you pass it tonight, which we hope you do, to get them on track for 2018. We'll put it on the agenda for new business. They're hungry for it. That board is on my back all the time. Get new stuff on the agenda. We want to tackle this, 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 and this. I got an email from board member Bill Coward the other day. Gave me 3 things to put on the agenda. The chair approved it within 15 minutes by email to put them on the agenda. So they're hungry for this stuff to be brought forward and to tackle it. So they will be back to you with, you know, with what their feelings are. There's no doubt about that.
Councilmember Pelosi.
So Councilmember Wagner.
Your microphone, please.
So Councilmember Wagner, are you going to make a motion then to, or who's going to make the motion, Mayor?
That's not my call, Councilmember Pelosi.
Well,
Councilmember Wagner, would you want to say something?
Let me try it. I move to amend the original motion, the motion that was to introduce and adopt the ordinance 6658. I want to make an amendment that would say that the council has expressed some interest in other improvements in this ordinance, and we would, I guess I can't say direct, we would request that the BIA return with those improvements with a updated ordinance within 3 months.
Okay, is there a second? Councilmember Holman.
I'll second.
Thank you.
No.
Is there any discussion on the amended motion? Hearing none.
May I inquire, just to make sure that I'm understanding it, was the tenor of the motion that the motion would be adopted tonight and the BIA would return within 3 months with changes?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
Thank you very much. And we'll supply us a transcript of the conversation tonight to the BIA board members at the next meeting so they have it.
We still have the main motion. So the amended motion passed 4-2, correct? All right. And so now we have the original motion on the floor that has the amendment to it. So all those in favor of the original motion with the amendment added, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
Okay, it's 4-2. The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This next matter is resolution number 5320, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Auburn, Washington, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement between the City of Auburn and Auburn Symphony Orchestra for tourism promotion services.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Deputy Mayor Wells.
I move for the approval of Resolution 5320.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Baggett.
Second that, Your Honor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Wells.
We had an opportunity to review this agreement at our last study session, and we had a lengthy presentation that showed all the positive things that are happening with our symphony in their plans for the year, and this will allow us to provide some promotion services that will continue to enhance the program that they provide to our citizens and to our kids and to our schools and to some of our other events.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Excuse me. Hearing none, all those in favor of resolution number 5320, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passes.
Resolution number 5324, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Auburn, Washington, authorizing the mayor to execute an interlocal agreement between the City of Auburn and the City of Federal Way relating to the leasing of Auburn properties for joint police task force.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Pelosa.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that.
Your microphone, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that, that we proceed with resolution number 5324.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Holman.
I second the motion.
Thank you. Councilmember Pelosa.
Yes, this resolution is to provide a facility space for the Puget Sound Auto Theft Task Force. It's a joint operation between the cities of Auburn, Tukwila, Federal Way, Bonnie Lake, Lakewood, Tacoma, and the Pierce County Sheriff's Office and the King County Prosecutor's Office and the Washington State Patrol. The City of Federal Way will be the coordinator of all this effort, and this facility has been established at the Auburn Game Farm Park down on R Street here in Auburn.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of resolution number 5324, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passes.
Resolution number 5325, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Auburn, Washington, authorizing the mayor to accept state grant funds from King County Flood Control District for the 37th Street Northwest Flood Control Project.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Baggett.
Yes, I make a motion to approve Resolution 5325.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Councilmember Holman.
Second the motion, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember Baggett.
This is a resolution of the Council of the City of Auburn to authorize the mayor to accept state grant funds from the King County Flood Control District in the sum of $210,000 for the 37th Street Northwest Flood Control Project at the intersections of I Street and 37th Street Northwest.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of resolution number 5325, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passes.
Resolution number 5328, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Auburn, Washington, approving addendum number 1 to the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Auburn and the Auburn Police Sergeants Association for 2016-2018.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Deputy Mayor Wells.
I move for the approval of the resolution.
Resolution 5328.
I don't have a copy of it, but we did discuss it, yes.
There should have been copies for everyone at the table.
Thank you, thank you.
All right. Do I have a second? Councilmember Baggett.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Wells.
We discussed this earlier, and this sounds like what we need to do, and I recommend that it be approved.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of resolution number 5328, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passes.
Resolution number 5329, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Auburn, Washington, approving addendum number 1 to the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Auburn and the Auburn Police Guild for 2016-2018.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Councilmember Holman.
I move the council accept and pass 5329.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Pelosa.
I second.
Thank you. Councilmember Holman.
This is very similar to the sergeant's agreement. It's a bargaining agreement between City of Auburn and the Police Guild. And we did discuss it earlier, and it looks like a good deal for all concerned.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Excuse me. Hearing none, all those in favor of resolution number 5329, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passes. All right, we will move on to mayor and council member reports. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This is a question perhaps more than anything else. There was discussion about whether there would be a motion to approve or adopt
yes.
or decline or adopt in part the SCA legislative agenda for 2018.
Thank you.
We don't have that written before you because it was just tonight that we discussed it at the special meeting, but perhaps I could at least propose that the motion could include that the city council either adopt, decline to adopt, or adopt in part the Sound Cities Association legislative agenda for 2018, and if it was adopted in part, then it might be appropriate to identify which parts would be included.
Okay, Councilmember Wagner.
I move that the council adopt in full the Sound Cities Association legislative recommendations.
Thank you. Councilmember Holman.
Second the motion.
Thank you. Councilmember Wagner.
The SCA has put together a legislative agenda that is a good match to the Association of Washington Cities and to the things that this city is interested in, and so I think we're making our voice stronger in Olympia by endorsing this.
Thank you. Councilmember Pelosa.
Yes, I'm going to identify those areas since we didn't do that. The first area is to adjust the property tax cap. The Sound Cities Association urges the legislature to give local governments the option to replace the arbitrary annual 1% cap on property tax increases with a limit tied to inflation plus population growth. That's number one. Number two is to invest in public health services. They urge, the Sound Cities Association urges the legislature to fund the core public health services provided by local health jurisdictions. And the third item, address the housing and homelessness crisis. The Sound Cities urges the legislature to address other underlying causes of homelessness by making investments in our state's behavioral health system and enacting legislation to prohibit source of income discrimination.
Thank you.
And, if I may add, I support this change for Sound Cities Association to formulate their 2018 legislative agenda. That's all that does, is this body is recommending that they go forward and advocate for all the cities. Once the legislature approves this, which may be several years hence, it will then go out, it'll become law, and it'll go out to all the cities, and then they make the individual city decision whether to increase the cap or not. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Wells.
I would like to see us approve the public health portion and the homeless portion. That's what's having a real significant impact on the nation, Auburn, and the region. We in Auburn have seen the cutbacks in public health and have worked collaboratively with some of our local agencies to fill that temporary gap. Homelessness, we need to invest a significant amount more. But to raise the taxing limit at this time, to me, is irresponsible. Our citizens out there are now faced this year with Sound Transit gas tax, Sound Transit sales tax, Sound Transit property tax, Sound Transit license tabs, and our schools' overall levy portion is up and their bonds have even increased more with the authorization of 2 new schools and 6 rebuilds. I don't have a problem looking at this increase later on, but I think that we need to look within ourselves and our own budget and do more with what we have based on our priorities. As I travel around the district, like the rest of you, around the city, you're at the same place as I am, I see people that are really struggling. And when I see the gas tax and what it's done and some of these others and how they don't uniformly impact everyone, it's almost an insult to say, trust us, let's raise the limit that we're allowed to. It's kind of like talking to my daughter and saying, I'm going to give you an allowance increase, but I don't expect you to use it. So politically, this is not the time to do it. Our constituents are facing homelessness and medical issues and other things. Let us get used to what we have already voted on or we've been saddled with before we press our public to trust us more with a higher limit.
Councilmember Wagner.
Well, during our discussions on this subject in another closed session, I made the comment that as long as Tim Eyman is alive and living around here, we're not going to get this passed in the legislature anyway, because the legislature has passed it a couple times, and Tim Eyman's gone back out and got everybody to sign an initiative, and it got rolled back again. So I could support taking that off because it's just a placeholder till Tim Eyman dies or moves out of Washington, and it lets us put more emphasis on the remaining ones. So I would amend my motion to exclude the property tax limit increase.
Okay, is there a second? Deputy Mayor Wells.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Councilmember Holman.
Again, this is a legislative agenda for which we take forward to the legislature. We just got done approving a police and police sergeant's contract that has a 3% raise in it, and yet we have a 1% cap. So the math just does not compute. And Mr. Pelosa's comments about this being a legislative agenda where we're working with Sound Cities Association and advocating that we won't see action on this until about 2021, and we're just laying groundwork for a future legislative action. So I thought you had an excellent summation.
Deputy Mayor Wells.
Waiting for Tim Eyman to fix our action, I don't believe is the right way to look at this. It's too pragmatic. I look at it from the point of view of taxes and how much our citizens can bear. We couple of months ago went through the issue of where we were floundering over $400,000 because we turned down the local license tab fee, though it was going to be $400,000. The first year it was, because it was a half-year collection, it was going to be eventually maybe $800,000. We were able to look at the existing budget and find some money, thanks to the leadership of the mayor, find some monies that more than surpassed that amount. I think that we could do a lot more belt tightening and prioritization in this time of need where we want to take care of our small businesses, but we also want to take care of our families. We want to make it such that when our homeless go through our programs and facilities and our actual residents have a home and are working, they're not further taxed out of that success. So I support recommending that the Sound Cities recommendations 2 and 3 go forward, but not the one on the increased lid.
Councilmember Baggett.
As I said in the other meeting that we held earlier today, I'm not for tax increases for most of our residents, but we can't be short-sighted here. We have to be aware of the fact that our city is growing. We're almost 80,000 people right now. We're growing to 100,000 here within a few years. And we have to be able to provide the infrastructure and the support that's required. Now, this, again, is not a tax increase. This provides for us to approve that SCA goes forward to the legislature to try to change that 1%. Again, it's not up to some of these cities will not require tax increases, some may. I believe the city of Auburn probably would require some form of an increase. But property taxes are one of our primary sources of revenue here for the city. And we can't afford to be, like I said, short-sighted. We need to be able to provide the necessary revenues here to provide the services for our residents. What with the increases, just like Councilmember Holman mentioned, that's a small piece of it. There's other things that are going on in the city here that require revenues, and we just did not approve the car tab fees as an ad hoc and a council, and I believe that that was a good move, but this is a much bigger issue, and I think we have to be a little bit open-minded about this and accept the fact that we're going to need more revenues as we grow. So that's my story.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Councilmember Holman.
Just a simple call for the question.
All right. So currently we have the amendment to the motion that states that council would support SCA's position on items 2 and 3 of the 3 items on the 2018 legislative agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Question.
Councilmember Pelosi.
So how are we dealing with the first item?
The amendment to the...
Does this then remove the first item?
At this point in time, the amendment to the motion would be to support items 2 and 3. Only. That Auburn would support items 2 and 3.
And that's what we would take to SCA.
That would be the vote that would be allowed at the Public Issues Committee meeting this Wednesday night. Yes. Okay, all of those in favor of the amendment to have Auburn support items 2 and 3 of SCA's legislative agenda for 2018, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
Okay, let's do this by hand to ensure this. All those in favor of the amendment to support items 2 and 3 only, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3. Mr. City Attorney?
The motion would require a majority to pass, and so therefore the motion failed.
Okay.
The motion to amend failed.
Motion to amend failed. So now in front of us is the motion to support the 3 items that are on SCA's 2018 legislative agenda. All those in favor of the SCA legislative agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. No. Okay, let's do this one by hand as well for Danny and for those in the audience. All those in favor of supporting the SCA legislative agenda for 2018, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed, please raise your hand. 4-2, the motion passes. Thank you. All right. We will now move on to mayor and council member reports. At this time, the mayor and city council may report on their significant city-related activities since the last regular council meeting, and we will begin with Deputy Mayor Wells.
Thank you very much. I had an opportunity this last weekend to work with some organizations supporting our disabled veterans. I want to remind you that we have an incredible parade coming up this coming Saturday, that our parade, Daryl, isn't it the largest one west of the Mississippi?
It's one of the top two.
Yes. Okay. And so I want to encourage everyone to come. I was fortunate to work with a couple of agencies this weekend to collect money with no administrative costs to go to disabled veterans. And so with that, I will pass the microphone on.
Thank you. We will start with Councilmember Wagner tonight.
On the 19th, I attended the Pierce County Regional Council. They continue to have a lot of discussion around the Puget Sound Regional Council's effort to redefine growth centers, regional growth centers in the four-county region. I think that I know we're gonna have what I would call a teaser about this in an upcoming study session. So I'm not gonna say any more in detail about what's going on with this center's realignment, but suffice it to say that I think we can protect our position of being eligible for most of the grants that are out, the federal grants that are out there. Because being designated a certain kind of center apparently doesn't give you any more points in competing with other projects, but it does allow you to enter the competition in certain areas if you are a certain kind of regional growth center. So we'll have that in more detail for you in a study session.
Thank you. Councilmember Holman.
No report, Your Honor.
Okay. Councilmember Baggett.
No report tonight, Your Honor.
No, but Councilmember Pelosi, that does not mean you're adding up all of their time. Councilmember Trout Manuel.
You gonna say something?
Yeah, just a little bit, okay, because of the timing here.
I'll chime in.
I was able to go. I attended the Joint Summit on Gang Prevention and Intervention in Tacoma, and there was probably about 400 people at this workshop. It was an all-day workshop. It was from 8 o'clock in the morning until 4:30 in the afternoon. What I got out of it was the region, people from Spokane, Yakima, Wenatchee, Olympia, Tacoma, Seattle, everyone seemed to be there. They were all detectives, gang task force, and social workers, and some of the people that are on my committee from the Regional Law and Safety Committee were there. And our governor opened up with a short statement about how the gangs have, we need to stop in and look at them and talk to the people that are out there doing some of this work, because there are some kids that are out there that are doing stuff because they don't have anywhere else to go. So these gang members become their families. Then our Attorney General Bob Ferguson also addressed the whole group, and they brought up to a panel of 4 gang members. The ages were from 16 years old to 21 years old, and they had been in the gang since they were 10, 11 years old. Some of these boys have been trying to get out of the gangs, but they said these gang members are their family. They're their brothers. They're their uncles. They're their cousins. And the 3 that were on there, they were in gangs and they were stealing cars. So now they're working with a religious group, a church. A minister took them under the wings, and they're working with them. And one young man that was 16 years old just really took my heart, and I almost wanted to adopt him because he says he dropped out of school, straight A student, and was a football player. He was looking for being recruited, but he dropped out in the junior year because he got so involved in the gangs. And he says, they're still my family. Even though I want to get out, they're still my family. And then they said, the only thing that we really want is for you. You people here are looking at us like, yeah, right, you're still a gang member, you're still a gangbanger. They go, we just want a little bit of respect because we have dreams just like all of you. And one of them has opened up his own business with the help of the church, and he is really trying hard. They've gotten off the drugs. A lot of them are not on the drugs. They're out there doing all this stuff, but they're not doing drugs. They're dealing the drugs. So it was really interesting how they are trying to change their lives. There was several law enforcement people. David Cortez from Yakima, he told his story about when he was 5 years old and he saw his first murder in California in front of his house. And he grew up with it. Now he moved to Yakima. He's the head detective and on the task force, and they're really cleaning up Yakima. So I came away with that, with a lot of information to try to take back to the Law and the Regional Law and Justice Committee because we really need to do something about these kids. We need to start at a very young age, and that is what they're trying to say, that, you know, the younger kids that are from families that are gangbangers or gang families, they're starting to work with the youth and trying to break that cycle. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it come back and go with our group. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Pelosi.
Thank you, Mayor. This week is Veterans Week, and I am a proud Navy veteran. Anchors away. So November 7th, tomorrow, the reason I mentioned we have an opportunity, Veterans, Seniors, and Human Services Levy tomorrow. So I went to this meeting. We talked about the governance plan for housing stability for veterans, seniors, and human services requirements. King County has put a lot of oversight boards in the governance of this levy. This levy is going to produce next year, if it passes, in 2018, it's projected to produce $52 million. And they've split it three ways, 17, 17, and 17 million for vets, seniors, and human services. That money is going to accomplish a heck of a lot for those in need. So that's what I have. One other thing which is very important. During the Regional Policy Committee, which I'm on, representing the city, our Sound Cities Association caucus discussed the necessity of this planning portion to fund and support veteran advocacy in outreach programs, such as the Auburn Senior Center and or other facilities. We used to have a person come in once a week from the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Their budget ran out, so now we're trying to get the VA, Department of VA, and King County Veterans Affairs to come once a week. So we're working on that now. The other thing is I attended the Metropolitan Water Pollution Abatement Advisory Committee. Probably what that means is Sewer. That's what that means. Wastewater treatment is really the colloquial word for it. So we received a report from the director of wastewater treatment, and King County Wastewater Treatment received a rebate of $900,000 based on equipment efficiencies from Puget Sound Energy. Yeah. The West Point treatment plant over west of Seattle, right, John? West of Seattle. All the electrical work repairs, because of that large overflow that they had last year, or this year, excuse me, all the electrical work has been done. They've trained new employees, and another item away from that subject is $500 million has been allocated to a combined sewer overflow sites in Ballard, in the Ship Canal area. Now, Seattle and King County both have combined sewer overflow systems. If you go back east, that's about all they do, is combined sewer overflow water systems. Water and sewer goes in the same pipe. So they're upgrading, but they're spending $500 million of taxpayer money to upgrade those. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So just wanted to give a shout out to our police department. We swore in 2 new police officers in the last couple of weeks. We had Officer Nate Fry, who was a lateral, and Officer Trent Dow, who finished top of his class in the academy, correct? Close to the top? Close to the top. We'll take that every day of the week, and so we are getting the number of officers that have been approved and budgeted for. We are finally getting close to having that number. We have several that will be beginning the academy in the near future. And by the time they are what you call boots on the ground, it will be 6, 7, 8 months. So it is a long process. Sometimes we have the opportunity to hire a lateral, and that does shorten up that process a significant amount of time, but we don't have that many laterals. Typically, we are having new people coming out of the academy. So on Saturday, October 21st, some of the members are in the audience. We went to the River Estates and celebrated their 40th anniversary. Happy anniversary, everyone. It was a great event. Elvis was in the building. And dinner was excellent. So thank you for inviting me down there to help you celebrate beautiful park and all of the great people that are there as well. And as I left that event, I went down to the White River Valley Museum tailgate fundraiser. Another fun event. It was a lot of people there that night, Daryl. It was a good turnout. Do you know how much money was raised by chance? Okay, 17,000. That would be a good amount for that evening. That was that was a lot of fun as well. Also on the 27th of October, went to Arthur Jacobson Elementary School to help with their trunk or treating that their PTA put on. We had great weather and we had a good time. We ran out of candy just at the end, so thankfully we planned in advance, and I had about 8 bags of candy with me, and Lucky went with me. And then the following day, the Halloween Harvest Festival that's put on by the Auburn Parks, Arts and Recreation, and roughly 4,000 people attended that event. So it was held at Lescove in the park and also in the Community and Event Center in the rec and in the gym, and It was extremely well attended. I think it had more attendees than the first year that we did it down there. So a great way to spend a really good weather day. In fact, it was almost too warm out there. Some of the candy, we were joking, that was going to be melting. And that same evening, then I went to the Battlefield Addiction fundraiser that was held at Emerald Downs. Battlefield Addiction is a nonprofit organization that helps not just the addicts, but the family members, and believes that the families have to be part of that discussion in order for addicts to be in recovery. And so another well-attended event. I was very impressed. Howie Mandel has donated $100,000 to Battlefield Addiction just in recent history, and so they are well on their way. They have purchased, one of the family members has purchased the old Jason's coffee shop and will be opening that at some point in time as an opportunity for addicts in recovery to have a job and learn skills in that cafe. So look forward to that. And then we had a ribbon cutting for a new business in town on the 2nd, last Thursday, and that was for Painting with a Twist, which is over on 15th Street Southwest. That looks like that's a really fun thing to do. A little wine, a little food, and a little painting. What's not to love about that? And it's exciting new business here in town. On the 3rd, on Friday morning, I think many of us attended the 24th Annual Harvest Breakfast for the Auburn Food Bank. And I understand that they raised at least $61,000 that morning, with more funding coming in, and that was a greater amount raised than last year. So kudos to the Auburn Food Bank for another successful event. And a lot of the story this time was about the Ray of Hope Resource Center and those people who have had an opportunity to receive a hand up and out of a current situation. So I was very proud to be there to support their good work. And then that evening, attended the Chamber of Commerce holiday auction that was held at Green River College, and it was casino night. I did not partake in the gambling, but it looked like those that did with the paper script had a really good time. And there was also the Slick Watts Foundation, Basketball Foundation, was a recipient of some of the funding that evening. And one more exciting piece of news, council and directors, I know you're aware that Robertson's Property Group owns the property out, the old Valley 6 drive-in property. And as you remember, Doug Lean and I flew to California in February to talk with them to remind them that that property has been sitting vacant and dormant for quite some time, and we have a belief that something should be done on that property. About a month ago, they brought in some of their senior leadership team to meet with brokers, and I am pleased to announce that pre-leasing opportunities on their 70-acre site that formerly housed the Valley 6 Drive-In and has been renamed Auburn Gateway. After 15 years, RPG has determined that the Auburn market is ready to absorb a full-scale commercial and residential development, and has contracted with First Western Properties as their leasing agent for retail space. The proposed site plan calls for box retail, junior anchor retail, restaurants, office space, and residential development. And as a reminder, Auburn is definitely open for business. So I have, we received their information, their pre-leasing information today, so I have copies for council if you would like one. And with that, Mr. City Attorney, do we have any need for a closed or an executive session this evening?
No, we do not, Your Honor.
All right, we are adjourned.